Enter the stars, good morning. And we made it to Election Day. And I took a few minutes to actually take a look at some of the coverage this morning. And the mainstream media is already spinning the narrative of record mail-in ballots. Apparently, a lot of people want to avoid the crowds and avoid the drama. And as many as like 60% of the people in Florida already voted mail-in. And of course, what this is going to do is create maximum chaos, right? Because both sides are questioning the legitimacy of these mail-in ballots and claiming that multiple ballots are mailed to the same person. Now, I don't know how this day and age you can't determine that a person voted 2 and 3 and 4 times. I don't understand that, but apparently it's hard to determine. And I think this is just all part of the chaos. I don't even believe any of this anymore. So, what's going to happen? Well, maximum chaos, of course. Downtowns across America are boarded up, including D.C., in anticipation of violence. And as we've all seen, America is pretty much perfectly divided, more so than ever before. And you know what they say in Vegas? 50-50, and Vegas always wins. So, they've turned off the chat, and now they started doing this. I started noticing this probably about a year ago, that a lot of these news sites like Yahoo basically just turn their chat off. Turn their chat, turn off all of their things, you know, that help us communicate with each other to see if they're telling the truth. All of that's being turned off. I definitely expect that to get worse. So there's lots of fear in the air. And when I looked at this coverage, they had this trailer, and it literally looked like a movie trailer. It looked like they were basically playing a movie, and then they wanted you to attend the movie. They actually did a segment on how to cope with mental health from all this, because I guess a bunch of people are triggered, mostly on the left, in fear just because they see a MAGA hat or a MAGA flag. You guys, that's weird. It's weird for someone to be so triggered behind something like that. But that's part of the psyop. All of that was created by both candidates, mostly Trump. Biden, to me, is just a non-factor. He's unelectable. And if he does get elected, somehow, some way, we will cover him as well. They also did a spot on how families have been split up over this election and their political differences, and how all of these Americans have lost their best friend over their opinions in social media. So they're trying to scare people, and they're really not talking about anything outside of their paradigm that they want, their division. That's what they want. They don't want us talking like we're talking. Okay? So, this election is definitely a doozy, and we'll just have to see how it all plays out. Trump seems to have the popularity, hands down, drawing huge crowds as the media tries to downplay those crowds as a factor in him winning. Of course, that's part of the right-left paradigm. So he's popular, he's Hollywood, he's, shoots his mouth off, and people can't wait to hear what's going to come out of his mouth. So obviously that attracts people. People like the renegade, especially at being a president who's able to do this. So it appears to me that most people are still voting for Trump. And many people are doing so out of fear because the left has proposed an unelectable candidate. And there's so much fear that this borderline mentally ill candidate would become president, and this is what's driving people to the polls. So, what are we doing here today? Well, we are standing on principle, like we always have, and biblical truth. We're not getting involved in this charade that we know is fixed, this mental manipulation that they're putting America through. We're going to stick to the symbolism, guided by the Holy Spirit. And today I found some game-changing information. What I found is going to blow your mind. Now, the crazy thing is I've been having computer issues again. It's like freezing as I move my mouse across the screen. I'm getting this weird freezing thing that wasn't happening yesterday, but all of a sudden, here we are. So let's hope we get through the show today. We're going to be spending most of our time in Google Earth today. And we're going to look at this pair of buildings. Let me pull this up. Yes, very weird acting computer today. Here's the pair of buildings, of course. And you guys will all remember these buildings because we've been talking a lot about these buildings. These buildings, both of them opened in 1983, 33 years before Trump took the presidency. They both opened in 1983. So what, Casey? Well, on the left is Trump Tower, on the right is the IBM building. And both are what are called wedge-shaped buildings. And they both point somewhere, as you can see. All you do is take the midpoint of the arrow that they form, line it up to the corner, same with the IBM building, and they point somewhere. Where are they pointing? Well, that's what we're going to see next. But Trump's is odd because it's shaped like a hieroglyph. And many of you had asked me to look deeper into this because this is actually an Egyptian hieroglyph. Let me pull that up. This is the shocker here. Now, I wasn't expecting to find this. I just thought that this was a hieroglyph for stairs or something. Lo and behold, it does mean stairs, but it also means to ascend. Let me make this bigger for you. Where Trump's ascending to with his design, I don't know. But look, this particular hieroglyph is shared with this dual hieroglyph. You see this here? So it's a variant of it, and it's both sides. Let's make this bigger so you can see this, which looks a lot like Trump's tower here. How both sides right here, 3 and 3 steps, look a lot like this. And then you've got the other side. This has 4 stair steps, but I think we can all agree that the inspiration for Trump Tower was this Egyptian hieroglyph that means to ascend. Now, here's where things go off the rails, because the glyph is found at a place called Abydos. Now, it's found a lot of other places too, but here's the one they pulled out of Abydos, which sounds a lot like Abaddon, Apollyon, Apollo. Where's he ascending to? I'd like to know. And is he going through Christ to try to do it? Or some other method? Now, I found some translatory books. Is that a word? I don't know. Actually looking at this particular symbol to get more details. Because you can't just make an assumption about something based on one source. Here's the symbol again. Stairway, stepped throne. So now we have a throne component. Here's another source here. And this particular one, let's make this bigger. Now this is just, I'll actually put the link to this book in the description or the pinned comment. This one says the steps or stairs which held up the judgment seat of Osiris. And look, there's Trump Tower from the air all throughout this word called Ket. Now, here's the crazy part. Because Osiris, Old Cyrus, Cyprium, Cuprum, copper. They're all the same word, you guys. And so I'm wondering if Cyrus the Great was a clone of Osiris. Now, I'll get into why I think that in a minute, but look at this. There's more. Now, we're going to get into some of the ramifications of this and what I feel like was impressed upon us today to cover, because this is game-changing, okay? Here's more. Stairway, double stairway, okay? And it says here, terrace, terraced hill, stairway. Ascend. So this is a repeating theme, to ascend. Now, what would you need? And I'll fast forward through this because I should have probably given you guys a warning on this. But what would you need if you wanted to clone somebody in ancient Egypt? Well, you would need some kind of crucible or something to hold the fetus in, right? While it's growing. You would need probably a copper chamber. You'd probably need a lot of electricity, right? You would need Wharton's jelly. What is Wharton's jelly? It's a substance that is only found in the human umbilical cord and the vitreous humor of the inner eye. It's the fluid that fills your inner eye. So you would need Wharton's jelly. Kind of sounds like Tesla's Wardenclyffe. I wonder if that's a play on words, which was that tower. We're going to look at that in Google Earth in a second. It's the tower that Trump Tower and the IBM Tower are pointing to. And it was basically pulling free energy out of the air. You would also need, if you were going to make a clone, some hyaluronic acid from a chicken comb. Here are some sources of hyaluronic acid. It's found in the umbilical cord as well as the chicken's comb. The rooster. And then I was like, oh man, this is crazy, because where have we seen the rooster before? Abe Lincoln was the rooster. This is hyaluronic acid, probably necessary in the process of cloning. Now, you would also need, according to Donnie Darko, an arrow coming out of the chest. That's the vehicle for quote-unquote time travel. So I began to think about this for a while, and I began to ponder over what this could mean. What does he mean, an arrow out of the chest? That would be the demon possession. Right? The arrow coming out of the chest is the demonic spirit possessing the clone or the golem. It's the serpent entering the empty soul. And that's why these scenes probably look familiar. I'm going to go through this really fast, because this right here is from Alien, and a serpent came out of his chest, did it not? Here is a scene or scenes from Stargate, and he had a serpent in his chest too. It had this X. It would come out of this X. It was the serpent that possessed the spirit. Everybody remembers Teal'c from SG-1 Stargate. And there's the serpent inhabiting the host body. They called it a symbiote. Here's an image of it here. The symbiote. This is crazy, you guys. Donnie Darko. The symbiote, or the demonic spirit coming out of his chest, the method of time travel, the arrow that we've been talking about, or they've been talking about. We just exposed it. Here's the symbiote again. This theme is definitely repeating. So, what is this all about? Now, let's go back into Google Earth, because there's this measuring tool that measures a couple different things. Compass direction and distance. And as I tell you guys, I've been on other channels, and it's just, people just don't understand. So I'm going to clarify. I'm going to be very clear here. Compass direction is universal throughout all languages and all cultures. The direction is related to magnetic north. And when you measure that direction, you can measure it here in Google Earth. You can get a surveyor and go out and measure it. You can do whatever you want. You can go stand with a compass at the site and measure the direction, but you're going to get the same thing. And something weird is going on with where Trump Tower and IBM building are pointing to, because as you can see here, if you're on something that you can actually see this here, I think I've got it blown up in the left border of your screen, but the measurement is a 76.76 degree heading. Now, why is that important? Well, that was the year that Trump was elected. The election happened in the Hebrew year 76. That was 2016. Now, had some trolls come on, oh, that's not true. He didn't get inaugurated till the following year, so your story doesn't match up. We're talking about Election Day, all right? Don't get it twisted. And look at this. How far away is Trump Tower from Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island, which is where this exactly points to? It's 57.79 miles. So encoded in Trump's Tower is the year that he would be elected, 5776. It's all there in the numbers, hiding in plain sight. Now, let's go over to Long Island. Take a look at where this points to. Now, it's important to note that 4 years after Tesla left this earth, a particular laboratory was opened just yards away from Wardenclyffe. It was called Brookhaven National Laboratories. And I'm starting to wonder, what's so special about this place? Brookhaven National Laboratory. Why did they place their laboratory just yards away from Wardenclyffe Tower? What did they know? What did John Trump know? Once he took the research. Now, I'm doing this in real time because I've also been accused. I get accused of all kinds of stuff, and I hate to bring this up, but a lot of people, they don't research and they just assume that what they hear in a chat is truth, and then that will basically shield them from finding the truth. This is it right here. This is Wardenclyffe. They got a museum there now. Let's zoom in on this. Let's fix that. That's a little bit off right there. But you can see it did not change the angle. Now let's zoom in on this. This whole site is basically a museum now. I believe this is the former tower. And notice how it goes to the cornerstone of the property, right? And even these corners of these two buildings kind of line up with where Trump Tower is pointing to. Now, I couldn't believe it when I found this. I knew I should have dug deeper, and I should have probably done it earlier when we were in that research. But as you know on this channel, it all just hits, and we do the best we can. This might be the tower actually here, but this whole site is the Wardenclyffe Tower. And so, what's going on with this? Well, let's back this out and see how close this is to Brookhaven National Laboratories. Now, what's so special about Brookhaven? Well, I believe Brookhaven probably had a very large part to do, let's close this, with what happened on that fateful day. Look how close this is. It's literally like a few miles. This is the ring, right? These are the Lord of the Rings. This is what they're really talking about. Opening gates and portals, the pits of hell. And look, there it is right there. We should measure this to see exactly how far it is. Get a good measurement for you guys. Looks like about 5 miles to the ring. So literally yards away. Look at this. 4.23 miles away. Now, if you're think that there's no connection between the work Tesla was doing and what's going on at Brookhaven National Laboratories, then probably isn't the channel for you, because we look at associations, we look at patterns, and we see that something is going on. And there's something about this place that is important to the electrical universe. So, 33 years to the presidency from the time those towers opened. So he knew what he was going to become. He accomplished what was encoded in the towers. Now let's go back to the towers. Now it's interesting because I'm decoding a video game called Close to the Sun. And it's all about Nikola Tesla. He creates this ship made out of copper. And the ship is a ghost ship. Why? Because they were running these experiments and tearing through the veil of time. It created all these anomalies. And it was an electric ship. And these anomalies were electric. And they would appear as they phase shifted in and out of the timeline. And it's a first-person game, so you're this woman going through trying to find your sister, whose name is Archer. The Arrow. You see how they're just playing with us? Now, I've got all the screenshots from a 3-hour-long gameplay, and I narrowed it down to about 20 minutes. So on tomorrow's show, we're going to do live commentary on that 20-minute montage. I'm debating on whether or not to just upload it, but I probably won't, because I'd just rather just talk to you guys about it while it's playing out. I'm just hoping YouTube will behave and we'll be able to get through it without any problems. But let's take a closer look at Trump Tower. So now we figured out that this means ascension. And in the video game Close to the Sun, the very last lines of the video game, you hear Nikola Tesla's words as he says, "We found a way to bring back life." I would think it probably has something to do with our theory on this cloning that we just talked about. So, 33 years after this building was established, Trump became president. And here you see 3 and 3. There's your 33 and probably what this means. Now, this building is 2 feet shy of 666 feet tall. What I don't understand yet is what these 7 steps mean. And I'm wondering, is this 7 years of tribulation? Now, some people believe tribulation could be much shorter. Some people believe there's hardly any tribulation at all. But there's 7 steps here. So what does that mean? Now, Trump's trade deal has 7 steps. And he has a 7-step plan to bring back jobs. So maybe that's what this is about. Now, there's one other component to this. And we're going to also kind of race through this because it's not something YouTube likes. But let's go back here. Where did I put that? Okay, here it is. All right. So one of you had mentioned, and I got to just scroll down there. We'll pull that back up in a second. That IBM during WW2 failed to boycott the guy whose name rhymes with Bette Midler during WW2, and that IBM made punch cards that sealed the fate of Midler's prisoners. And this was huge during the time, and a guy did a book on it. Here's the book. Flash it up there for you. IBM. These are the punch cards. And they never boycotted, IBM never boycotted Bette Midler, we're going to call him, and allowed this to happen, sealing the fate of these people. And what these punch cards were a part of a census. So they sent these out. They made it mandatory This is why, there's a lot of history here. This is why you shouldn't just go along with what you're told to do all the time. Or never, if it goes against your morals. And so what happened was they made a national census and they made it mandatory. And then everybody that signed up for certain races got rounded up later. And this is why I'll never take a census ever. Now, for the last part of the show, we're going to quickly look at this punch card. And then we're going to look again at Trump Tower. And I'm wondering if the inspiration for Trump Tower came from this punch card. You can't make this up, you guys. The stair steps right here on the punch card. Let me zoom this up. Now, I wouldn't call this one of the greatest connections, and it definitely could not be the case, but this is just weird. The building next door, the IBM Tower, this is their legacy. Look at the numbers repeating. Remember how we found out how 55 is one of Trump's numbers, 66, 77, and 88, and 99, and 33. The only one that we haven't found that relates to Trump is 22. But look at the scare steps. Ooh, there's a Freudian slip on the punch card. And they all look like this. This is the author who wrote the book. And it was called one of the best books ever to expose corruption. But look at what we have here. So an interesting component to this, ascension. So I don't know if that was the inspiration for Trump Tower, but this is definitely something that needed to be covered and looked at. So that's what I wanted to show you guys today. We'll be on here tomorrow with full gameplay. And hopefully, this will all work out. See, it's saying we don't have a lot of, it says we're buffering here. Was it buffering, you guys? I don't know if it was, but my computer was acting really weird. Let's close these programs up. So, this is it. You can go into Google Earth yourself. Here, let's take this off. Let's do this. I'll show you guys this. You can go into Google Earth yourself. There's the IBM building. See, I put the Superman logo over it, because that's what it is. Here's your 55 right here. 5-pointed diamond with its twin sister, 5-pointed diamond Trump Tower. Okay. So, and they both point in the exact same direction to Wardenclyffe. In fact, it's weird because this points, and of course this is a parallel line, so it basically marks out the exact area that Wardenclyffe occupies on Long Island. Let's do it here. Let's do this. Now, I don't think anyone can argue this. I think the only thing that can be really argued is what this all means. I've heard people say basically that they think that this glorifies Trump and says they flip the script and makes it sound like this makes him like good or holy or like chosen or something. I don't get that drift, because if that was the case, wouldn't he be bragging about it? Wouldn't he be going, yeah, I built my tower to encode when I was going to become president. I knew it was all going to happen. There's all kinds of perspectives out there. A lot of people are even saying that he can't do as much as he wants to because his life is at stake. And my answer to that is, if you are afraid of that, then you're, I don't know, that just doesn't sound right to me. You have more security than any person on the planet. If you're afraid of that and that's dictating how you handle things, that doesn't jive with me. So let's go back here and look at the parallel lines. See how this all shakes out. yeah, it basically outlines the exact site here. That's pretty crazy. Wow, it almost points right to. Whoa, that's crazy. It points right to where that Wardenclyffe Tower was. Now, for those of you that don't know about Wardenclyffe, let's see. Let's go down the street view here and see what we see. A lot of trees in the way. Let's go down the street view. Now, fortunately, my RAM got upgraded. I upgraded my own RAM. I actually did my own computer, which I didn't think I was going to be able to do that. But a guy named Rich, who's been on the channel for a very long time, walked me through it. He's like, it's easy. You just open the computer. I'm like, open the computer? That's kind of scary. And I upgraded the RAM on here from 4 to 16 gigabytes of RAM. So that's why we're able to go into Google Earth now. So that's cool. So this has a lot of trees. So obviously you can't see where Wardenclyffe Tower once was. But let's do this. Let's close this. And let's go into here. Let's pull up a window and look at Wardenclyffe Tower so you guys can see it. So, is Wardenclyffe really a play on the word Wharton's jelly? You guys, I think they're cloning. I think they've been doing this for a very long time. They have a chamber. It's probably made out of glass and copper. This is their time machine. And they get inside of it, or they plant seed in a womb inside of it. They make like basically an artificial womb. They grow a clone, and they demon possess it. That's what I think's really going on. So here's the tower that we're looking at here. The building that you saw is the actual building, and as you saw, Trump Tower points to this building, Tesla's Wardenclyffe, and it apparently could pull energy out of thin air. So, this is what's going on. Let me go back in the chat. All right, let's let this catch up, and then we'll do a little Q&A. So, don't put your trust in man. I agree 100%. Believe it or not, though, so many people, out of fear, will just put their trust in man. I'll never understand it. Well, I will, because I used to. You know, up until probably 10 years ago, just before I started this channel, I used to vote in every election. I voted against Obama. I voted for Bush. But, you know, then I grew up. I realized there was really no difference between Bush and Obama. Obama kept the same policies overseas. In fact, he dropped more devices than Bush did. He like tripled it. So all the promises he made to his constituents, he did not follow. And then I found myself angry at Obama because he was doing what Bush was doing, but then was speaking out against Bush about it the whole time. And I'm like, why am I angry? Why can't I stand on a principle? The principle is neither of them should have been over there. That's when you start to wake up to the right-left paradigm. So, I was going to mention a channel, and I don't really want to mention that channel anymore because he's kind of against God now. So, I promised I wasn't going to do that anymore. Oh, I wanted to set the record straight. There was a song I was using as a soundtrack, and someone dug deeper into that song and found out that the lady who did the song cover, it was called Time, was into the occult. So I've removed that soundtrack from my soundtrack list. I deleted it off my computer, okay, because I don't want to expose you guys to that stuff. And thanks to the person who found that, there was no nefarious intention. The trolls love that stuff. They go, look, he's trying to program his viewers. You know, it takes all the heat off of Hollywood, the ones doing all the programming. So I wanted to set the record straight on that. So if you find that, or if you hear other channels coming after us about it, you'll know what happened. And we all work together. I'm not above reproach. You know, if I make mistakes here and there, I expect that you guys tell me about them in a nice way. And the person came forward in a nice way. And they said, Casey, I dug deeper in your song. Everyone was asking you what the soundtrack was, and you wouldn't say anything. And I said, I don't share my soundtrack information for 2 reasons. One, because exactly this thing happens, but usually there's no basis in it, and people will just pick one little thing. In this case, the person was correct. There was a lot of stuff that I don't want to attach to my videos in that song and in that person. and that artist. So I removed it. But most of the time, people will pick a title of a soundtrack and go, oh, it's new age, or it's this, or it's that, and it's baseless. In this case, it was not baseless. She was correct. And the other reason why I don't share my soundtrack titles is because it's so hard to find copyright-free music and royalty-free music. And so what happens is, I don't agree with copyright and royalty and all that. To me, it's all hogwash. That's another way the enemy divides us, keeps us in competition with one another. Look, you don't own knowledge. You don't own an invention. Okay, all of that comes from God. How can you try to own something that God gave you freely? Doesn't make any sense to me. That's how the enemy keeps us divided. And I'm not for communism or any of that stuff where everything gets shared. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people try to make money off of stuff all the time. And so I don't agree with copyright rules and all that stuff. It's ridiculous to me. And so I'll just grab music if it sounds good and it seems to go along with what I'm talking about. I don't hardly ever even look at the music and where it came from. I just grab it if it says it's copyright free, or it's something somebody made, usually cover songs. You can get away with using those. And so I don't tell people about it, because if I do, that what the trolls will do is they'll go notify the person and try to get me in trouble on YouTube. And then they'll file a copyright claim. So that's why I do that. So I appreciate your guys' patience, and I really appreciate you coming to the show this morning. And a lot of people are out voting. It's not going to matter whoever wins. It's going to be same result. I'll tell you this much. Now is the time where there's going to be a divide between what God instructs you to do and what man instructs you to do. It's going to be very clear. It's going to be very decisive. And you're going to have to decide in these coming days, whoever wins the election, you're going to have to decide what it is you're going to do. Okay? And you might have to disobey. And you got to be ready to do that. Or you're going to feel some pain financially or in your life. I know I'm ready, but a lot of people aren't. And that's evidenced by the amount of people that went out to vote in fear that Biden would win, which is just bizarre to me. After everything that channels like this, I think most of the great truth channels are the ones that have already stepped outside the right-left paradigm. A lot of channels already have. And those are the real channels out there. If a channel's still telling you you have to vote or vote for the lesser of two evils, or, you know, pushing the whole Q thing, or running interference for Trump, saying, oh, he can't do it because his life's in danger, or he can't do it because of this, or he's working on it, or he's already done all of this, those are the channels that are the fake channels. The channels that already have stepped outside of the right-left and understand that this is all a game to manipulate your mind, those are the real channels. So, I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to go ahead and pop off of here. We'll be back on here tomorrow with this gameplay. Got a little bit more editing to do on that. And I'm not sure why I bet you there's a lot of people live right now. That's probably what's going on. The internet's like dragging. It's been pretty much dragging. Yeah, Trump will probably win in a landslide. That's what I'm thinking. 3OG. That's probably what's going to happen. I just can't imagine that the people on the left will do anything more than they're already doing. You know, if Trump wins, I mean, what are they going to do? You guys, the patriots are on the right. Those are the people that actually take action and do things to course correct America's path. Okay, not the people on the left. People on the left are like, I'm sorry to say, but they're just kind of like lame and weak. Okay, and what's happening in the streets right now, those aren't even real people on the left. Those are provocateurs, or they're just people that, the same kind of people that flip over cars and stuff, you know, at riots and stuff. They're just basically unorganized. They're just doing it because no one's telling them not to do it. But as soon as the National Guard rolled in, what do? They all split, scattered like rats. So the thing is don't buy into that. The real chaos would happen if Biden stole the election, would it not? That's when the real chaos would happen, because all the popularity behind Trump would be brought to bear, and there would be some people very seriously scratching their head going, there's no way I'm going to respect Biden as a president. And there would be a lot of people that I feel would do something about it. Okay, that's just my personal opinion, which would create a lot of chaos. And of course, Trump would roll with that, right? Stand by and stand back. He would do something about that with words, tweets, and that would be what would be creating the chaos. And all of that pent-up anger and frustration because the left didn't do anything, and neither did the right, about all of these businesses burning and all this stuff. All of that pent-up frustration would come out if Biden won. So that would be, I believe, my opinion is, would be the true element of chaos. If Trump won, it's no big deal. Presidents get reelected all the time. Okay? Now, how does this all apply to all of us? Well, if things start to get crazy and they start locking stuff down because of the chaos, what's going to happen? Well, they have already got the National Guard out. Oh, now we'll just supply the National Guard with the VCs. Let's get it all done all together, right? That's when things are going to get weird, because there might be media blackouts, and you're not going to know what's happening in one town to the next. Or you're going to get the left. And I almost guarantee you, when these VCs come out and everyone's standing in line, I almost guarantee you the left is not going to say a word about it. They're not going to go against Trump on that, because they're both working together to get that done. All right? So that's what I think is going on. Now, another thing we're going to be working on later in the week is this, what is it called? Songbird. I got the trailer pulled up, and we'll cover that in its own show, because I want to take my time on that. But this is Songbird. Let's pause this. Whoa, pause. And this is the trailer. Now, a lot of channels have covered this already, but we're going to get the perspective here from all the research that we've done. All right. But this has a very I Am Legend feel to it. In fact, they play the soundtrack from I Am Legend, Bob Marley. And that's what it reminded me of immediately. But what you're going to see in here is walls. There's a lot of walls. What's this say here? No, that's not it. Here's Songbird, right? Here's the wall here they show. We're going to cover all that later in the week. This is the wall, you guys. Trump's bragging about putting the wall up. Guess what? You want to run down to Mexico when the National Guard starts rolling down the streets? Can't do that anymore. You know, walls work both ways. They keep things out and they keep things in. So that's what we'll be working on. All right. So everybody thumbs up this video. Obviously, we have become a target on YouTube because we're outside of the right-left paradigm. So you got both sides. We're getting it from both sides. So your thumbs up do help. I don't ask you guys for a lot. I don't load this channel up with sponsors and merchandise and constantly asking you to send me PayPal donations. We don't do that here because we're running lean and mean. We got things to do, and we can't get distracted on that stuff. Okay? So I appreciate your thumbs up. That's important. I appreciate the fact that you watch. And I think that's about it. Let's go in the chat for just a little bit. I think everybody's watching the election unfold. Now, of course, we'll probably get a good idea by the end of today what's going to happen. And then they'll be fighting. I don't see this thing dragging out, though, for some reason. I just don't. But, I mean, it's possible. We'll have to see. Let's see here. Let's look in the chat for a little bit. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because the Trump supporters, they know that they trigger the left. So you've got all these people with their flags on their trucks. And the people that are on the left are getting very triggered by this. Like, they're having mental anguish, anxiety, panic attack. I've never seen anything like this in my life. you don't have to worry. I mean, these people aren't violent people, but just the sight of a flag, they're almost looking at the flag like it's you know, the thing that Mittler uses, one of those flags. So I don't get it. I've never seen anything like this in my life. Okay, it's just crazy. And here we are. It feels like it's all been manufactured, this point in history. Like it's all been steered. And my recommendation, I'm not going to go out. I'm not really going anywhere. But I've not made myself a target either. I have not picked a side. See, the people that are going to be targets for anything that's going to go down are the people that have picked a side. The people that all year have had their MAGA flag on the side of their porch waving. Okay, do you see how all this is playing into the purge, and how the purge was a perfect setup for everything that's going to happen today and tonight and the rest of the week and probably into the weekend? How in the very first Purge film, Ethan Hawke plays a guy that makes security systems for houses. Many of you will remember that first Purge film. That happened on 3/22. That was the date, March 22nd, in the first Purge film. And he thought he was the most popular guy in the neighborhood, and he was, because everybody wanted a home security system. We're talking the serious security systems with the metal doors that roll down and cameras everywhere and all this. So he was the salesman for this home security system, and he sold security systems to every single neighbor. But here he was thinking he was popular and great, but he was making all this money. He had the best security system on the block because he was the guy. He was making money off of people's fear. Well, as soon as the purge lit up, they came after him because they hated him. They secretly hated him because he had more than them. Well, look, it's no different today. All these people running around who have bought into the right-left paradigm, who have made their feelings for one side or the other known, they become targets to each other. All of that anger and frustration lets loose on those people. So that's what happens. This is, I think we're getting into the time where the Bible talks about there will be some of us that are unaffected by the tribulation. We will be outside of their chaos. We will be outside of their illnesses, outside of their harm, and they're going to hate us for it. They're going to hate us for it because they're going to be like, why do you get to not be part of this chaos? It's because we've chosen Jesus, not a man, to solve our problems. Love each and every one of you, and I'll see you on here tomorrow. Take care and be safe.